Hi everyone, Alchemist here. Today, I'm going to talk about the Underworld. What is the Underworld? Where does it come from? What's the origin of the Underworld? And what are the cultures that believed in the Underworld and its existence? I know this is a subject that confuses a lot of people, and many people wonder about the nature of the Underworld and what does it mean when we say that this soul comes from the Underworld, or that a spirit is from the Underworld, or that after we die we go to the Underworld. The word Underworld or Netherworld is self-explanatory. Underworld. It's a world that exists beneath. But this is a spiritual dimension that humans nowadays just think of as a myth. They don't know if it does really exist or not. There's no specific physical location of the Underworld. However, many cultures around the world for thousands of years have talked about the Underworld. And these cultures come from different corners of the planet. We have, for example, ancient Mesopotamia. They believed in the Underworld. We have, for example, ancient Greece, ancient Egypt. We have Norse mythology. So I'm going to explain what the Underworld meant for each one of these cultures, and also the spirit realm. Where does the souls come from? Where do they come from? And what do they do when they are in this underworld per se? I'm gonna start with the Egyptians. The Egyptians believed in the Underworld. It is said that it's a place that is full of bad spirits. It's full of scary spirits. They're harmful, they're malicious, and it is a place you don't want to go to. The ancient Egyptians believed that after death, the soul goes to the afterlife. And in the afterlife, you're gonna be judged, and your heart is gonna be judged as well. And you're going to see the gods. You're going to see if your heart is as light as a feather. And if your heart is very light or lighter than a feather, or as light as a feather, then you will go to the afterlife in this place where we can call it's what religions like to refer to as heaven. And then Anubis gets to judge that. Anubis and his pet, the pet that's called Amet, and they're the ones who are gonna judge if you go rejoin the gods in that heaven place. That's what the Egyptians believed. And mind you, this other place that's not the Underworld where you join the gods, this is what the Egyptians believed. And you can check the Book of the Dead of ancient Egypt. It is said that if your heart is as light as a feather and you end up joining the gods, you go to this place that basically is beautiful. It's like a garden. And the weather is always nice. And you're given a piece of land. There's always sun, there's always beautiful weather, and you're given a piece of land. And you're supposed to work that piece of land for your own food. That's what the ancient Egyptians believed heaven to be. And then you stay there for eternity as a soul, and you're supposed to basically work that land and get your own food from that land that you're given. Or you can use these other tiny workers that are basically statues. And these statues remind me of the story of the golem. And I'm gonna make another episode about golems and the golem because it's quite fascinating, because that also exists in different cultures. And there's a huge mystery revolving around the golem. And here again, the ancient Egyptians says that in heaven, in that place where you go join the gods, you're given that piece of land, and then if you don't want to work the land by yourself for your own food, you use these little statues And these statues that are animated, they work the land for you, and that's how you can get food and eat. And you live there for eternity, happy forever. The weather is good, there's always sunshine, everything is great. That's heaven. It does sound like a simple heaven compared to other religions, or especially the Judeo-Christian religions, how they describe heaven to be like. It's much simpler than that, but that's what the Egyptians believed. Ancient Greece believed that all the souls, when they die, or all the humans when they die, their souls go to the underworld. So there is no like separation of you go here above and some go below. Everyone goes to the underworld. In the underworld there was 3 levels. So every soul that dies in ancient Greece goes to the underworld. And who's the god of the underworld? Who's guarding it? Hades. And once a soul goes inside the underworld, Hades will never let it come back to Earth, to basically the physical plane of existence. And the ancient Greeks believed that the entrance to the underworld usually existed in caves in Greece. Some believe these caves still exist nowadays. And if you can find these caves, they are the entrance to the dimension of the underworld. The Greeks believe that it's such a scary place. It's unbelievably scary, it's dark, it's full of creatures, it's full of malicious demons, it's full of things that you don't want to know about, you don't want to encounter. It's just it's a very scary place. And the god of that place is Hades, and his pet Cerberus, the dog with the 3 heads, huge, strong, powerful dog with 3 heads, he was the pet of Hades, and he was guarding the underworld. And Medusa Gorgona, after she was transformed into a Gorgon, that's where she resided. She went to the underworld. Hades makes sure you go to the underworld, you're not coming back on Earth, you're on the surface of the Earth. And when you go to the underworld, it was believed that there's 3 places in the underworld, in ancient Greece. 3 levels in the underworld. The first level is where most souls are just going to stay. It's this dark, dull, very boring, eternal place where nothing is happening. And your soul just roams there. It roams there forever. And this reminds me of why some souls, when they die, they choose to remain on the surface here and haunt objects instead of going to the underworld, because this first level of the underworld that the ancient Greeks believed in sounds horrifying, not in a scary way, just in a way where everything is just stagnant. There's no movement, there's no excitement, there's no happiness, there's no sorrow, there's nothing going on. It's just like you're just there, and it's quiet, there's no noise, there's nothing happening, and the souls can stay there forever without anything happening. And most souls don't want to be there, but that's where most souls end up going. That's based on how good of a person you were in your physical reincarnation. That's the first level. The second level that the ancient Greeks believed that in the underworld is the worst level. The second level is basically what Judeo-Christians describe as hell. It's this place, it's below the first level. So you have the underworld, you have that first level that I just mentioned, and then below it, underneath it, there's the second underworld. And that dimension is basically hell. It has fire, it has like rivers of volcanic fire flowing, and it's full of like scary demonic creatures that are very, very bad stuff, very scary stuff. This is worse than the first level. First level is like it's like a limbo. you'd rather be in the first underworld, which is like the limbo plane. You'd rather be there than the second one, because the second one is really, that's where you suffer basically. And then they describe the third underworld, which is the last plane at the bottom, is the heaven, that again these monotheistic religions talk about. It's like the heaven. It's this beautiful garden. Again, here we have the mention of the garden again. We have also the mention that this is where the gods reside, just like the ancient Egyptians. So you join the gods. It is said that it's beautiful. There's a beautiful sun in there. There's beautiful weather, kind of very similar to what the ancient Egyptians described. So that's, the Greeks believe that's the third level of the underworld, and that's where most souls want to be at. They want to join the gods. That's where the gods live. But both of these cultures, the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Greeks, they both believe that even after you die, you're still under the commands of the gods. You're still not at God's level. So you can join the gods. You can have your little land where you can, basically plant your food and vegetables or whatever it is for nutrition. You can do that, but you're not a god. As in, like, you're still under their command. You're still below the gods. So is this really a heaven? I'm not sure, because it doesn't sound very fulfilling. But that's what the ancient civilizations believed in. I want to also mention Mesopotamia. In ancient Mesopotamia, they believed that all the souls, they had like a different kind of belief in terms of the underworld. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that everyone had just one lifetime. You get one lifetime, so what you're supposed to do in this lifetime is to have fun and enjoy life as much as you can, to the max. Live every day as if it's your last day. That's what the ancient Mesopotamians, believe it or not, that's what they believed. Every day, live to the fullest, enjoy the max, completely hedonistic way of thinking, completely hedonistic, like just have fun, because it's the only life you have and you don't know when that's gonna happen again. And the ancient Mesopotamians, they were aware of the gods, they acknowledged them, they even had temples for them, they worshipped them, but there was a huge disconnect between the gods and the Mesopotamians. Like the Mesopotamians were kind of, they would worship the gods, they would pray to them, the temples were phenomenal, they would do the offerings, the rituals, everything. But the gods in ancient Mesopotamia, they kind of didn't care about humans. They didn't care much what would happen to humanity. As in, like, for the Mesopotamians, they believed, their main belief was that just do not anger the gods. Do not get involved with the gods. Do not anger the gods. Do not cause any problems to the gods. But it ends there. And that's it. But give them offerings, worship them, know that they are the gods, they are the creators, but just keep your distance. That's how they thought about life. There was a huge kind of disconnect. Whereas in monotheistic religions, for example, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, for example, we have these figures or these prophets that are loving to humans. It's as in like the gods or the messengers of the gods, or like Jesus or Muhammad or Moses or whoever these prophets are like loving. They love humans. In ancient Mesopotamia, this kind of didn't exist. There was kind of a disconnect. Although the worship did exist. And you would, ancient Mesopotamians, they would they would pray to the gods. But this notion of love, as in like the gods love humans or the humans love the gods, that didn't exist. So for them, it was believed that you live one lifetime, to the max, you enjoy it, you do anything you can to have fun, which is quite interesting, right? And then you die and that's it. And that's all there is to it. That's what they believed. Quite interesting, right? Now I'm gonna move to Norse mythology. In the Norse mythology, as many of you may already know, they believe that there was 3 levels or 3 spiritual levels of existence. There was Asgard, which is the land of the gods, and that existed above. And there was Midgard, which is where we reside, Earth, the 3-dimensional plane. They called it Midgard or Earth. And then below Midgard, underneath, there was the Underworld. And that's where your soul would basically go if you die, as in like you go to it's either hell, Underworld, or Asgard to join the gods in Asgard. So the gods are above, and then the Underworld is below, and here is Midgard, and after you die, your soul will go either or. It's either gonna go to join the gods or to the Underworld. So these are the explanations of the Underworld in different mythologies, in different cultures, different traditions. And there's of course many, many more. But there's always this notion of the Underworld being below, being beneath Earth, this plane of existence. And many cultures you find these parallels, although many things that have been taught and recited through history, information gets changed and gets twisted. But you find these parallels of souls going to the Underworld after they die. They're always going to the Underworld. The other thing I want to mention is that the souls, if they go to the Underworld after death, when it's time for them to be reincarnated again, that's where they come from. Meaning that you can be in the Underworld, in which level that exists there. It could be that limbo kind of dimension, or it could be the heaven dimension with the gods, or it could be whichever dimension that exists in the Underworld. When it's time to reincarnate again, that's where you come from again. That's where you come from to reincarnate. But it's very interesting to think that this Underworld exists beneath. Does that mean that it physically exists? The ancient Greeks believed that caves are the entrances to the Underworld. That's why they were scared to approach caves, because there was many accounts of people who would go to caves to visit them and they never come back, because they said that either Cerberus got them, or other creatures who live there, they would get them, or even Medusa. This is back in those times. So does that mean that the Underworld can be reached physically through a cave? Does that mean that it's physical? Does that mean that it's a dimension that we go to and it's spiritual? It's something that we cannot see? Or could it be an overlap of both? Caves have been a mysterious thing, and they have been correlated with these prophets and these people in history who claim that they have heard the voice of God in a cave. Prophets like Muhammad and many others have claimed that they heard the word of God inside caves. Even Leonardo da Vinci, apparently, before he became very popular with his arts and inventions, for 2 years he used to spend hours and hours inside this cave in his town in Italy. And he used to spend hours and hours there every day for 2 years. And people didn't know why he would go to this cave. And then after spending there 2 years, basically going there every day, shortly after that, he became the legend that we know of today. So there's always this association with caves and spiritual dimension and mystery and gods and deities and the afterlife. So I just wanted to share this with you to clarify the real meaning of the underworld and where does it come from. But what I believe is that our souls come from the underworld, and when we die, our souls will go to the underworld. And that's why in some of my readings I say, do you have a connection to the underworld? Have you been there before? Have you visited there before? It's because the soul resides there. In my opinion, it is a spiritual dimension that is far larger and wider than the physical dimension. And there's many levels and many areas and many things to explore there. What these ancient civilizations describe about the underworld, I think they were barely scratching the surface. I think there is a much more meaningful, deeper meaning to the underworld, its nature, and how it affects our souls and who we truly are. So is it really a place where the souls suffer after death? Or is it just the source of where all the souls come from? Let me know in the comment section. What do you guys think about the underworld? Are you connected to the underworld? Do you think you've been there in your dream state or in your meditation? Or if you ever met an entity that comes from the underworld? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next video.